Hey, this is Doc Yates. I'm a naturopathic doctor, registered acupuncturist, and a kinesiologist, owner of the Yates Naturopathic Clinic, and the founder of the interactive health website, Able Health. And this is the Simply Health Podcast, a show for females where I work to simplify and demystify the secrets of achieving optimal health naturally, based on my own experience in working with thousands of female patients over the past 15 years of my clinical practice. Welcome to Simply Health. Hey, this is Doc Yates, and on today's podcast, Drive Home from Work, we are going to be discussing 10, I don't want to say symptoms, but 10 kind of health conditions that I find that could be commonly linked with food sensitivities. So if you ever wondered if any of the things that you're dealing with, in menopause or perimenopause, is it hormonal, is it food sensitivities, is it related with a thyroid issue? Let's go through some of those right now. So from a food sensitivity standpoint. So also just to quickly define, what is a food sensitivity? So a food allergy you'd be a lot more familiar with. That would be a situation where a kid eats a peanut, they're allergic to it, like within minutes, their lips are swollen, their throat is closing up. It's a severe reaction, and it's a type of antibody called an IgE antibody. A food sensitivity is an IgG antibody. So this can cause more of an inflammatory reaction, but it's not within minutes. It can be within days, and it's a much more mild reaction. So it does make it a little bit trickier when someone has a symptom and people will say, oh, just write down what you're eating and you'll figure it out. You're not really going to figure it out that way. So to identify a food sensitivity, that's more where elimination diets come in, where you cut out a bunch of foods for a prolonged period of time and then reintroduce them. And again, it's not the same as necessarily a food intolerance. So for instance, lactose, which is the inability to break down the sugar in milk, which is lactose because you don't have enough lactase, that is like an inability to digest things. It's not an immune reaction. So food sensitivities are an immune reaction still, but they're not such intense and such a short-acting antibody. So generally speaking, in terms of what you do for treatments for this in conventional medicine is nothing. So either that, or they'll recognize the symptoms of inflammation and then they'll give you anti-inflammatories. Or if it gets to the point that it becomes an autoimmune, then you get things that can suppress your immune function. But they don't ever really get to what I feel is a major root cause, which is dealing with, obviously, the foods that you're eating. And a lot of these food sensitivities aren't necessarily foods that are bad foods. And we're not going to go through what are the main foods today, because a lot of these foods aren't necessarily bad foods, but some of them, they're just more commonly reactive for people. A great example would be eggs. Eggs is a pretty common sensitivity that does come up, though I do consider eggs to be a very healthy food. So when I've been working with diet for a long time, and a very, very large portion of my practice is dedicated to weight loss for perimenopausal and menopausal females. That's a more than 50% of my practice is working with the different aspects, hormone balance, weight loss for perimenopause and menopause. Hence this podcast. But the secret and the trick is that there's many ways to lose weight. And nobody is going into naturopathic medical school or medical school being like, you know what, my main goal here is I want to focus on weight loss. It's just not the way it works. There's always, you want to work on the bigger health conditions. Well, as I did, I always had a huge interest in arthritis and pain. But what I started to notice is that people would come in with arthritis and pain, but yet their number one concern was still weight loss. And I started to realize, if I wanted, and you couldn't convince people to change their diet for weight loss and for pain and arthritis, because they wouldn't see the link. So then I started to realize, okay, I'm going to get all these people to help them all lose weight, but I'm going to do it using a diet that doesn't just help them lose weight, but it's going to make them feel healthier, feel better, reduce their inflammation, all the above, all in one. So that's the diet plan that I created for the weight loss program. So Let's without further ado kind of get into it here. Number one, now these top 10 things are not in any particular order. These are just 10 things that I have found that are very commonly linked with sensitivities. So some of these we've touched base too on earlier episodes. But number one, arthritis. So whether it's osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, psoriatic arthritis, gouty arthritis, diet and food sensitivities play a big role. In gouty arthritis, you got to do a little extra work with some things to help eliminate uric acid, but otherwise, diet is the foundation, without question. If you're not addressing foods that are causing an inflammatory reaction for you, you will not get far, and you'll just be continuously band-aiding it with anti-inflammatories and pain medications. Number 2, a lot of skin conditions. So eczema, psoriasis, dermatitis, hives, chronic dry skin, food sensitivities. So very often these are food sensitivity related. So yet one more thing, that if you're dealing with a lot of dry skin issues, especially if you're having younger people with chronic dry skin and irritation you see on their shins, or like really dry skin and bumpiness on the back of their arms, food sensitivities. So number 3, the obvious one that everybody makes the connection, is digestive issues. Chronic digestive issues, you've got to look at food sensitivities and addressing that. Now, sometimes that is where you will see more things like intolerances come up at the same time. That would be, going back to the lactose example, but food sensitivities is very commonly linked with that. People who get chronic headaches and migraines. So I had a patient once with really bad migraines and arthritis. By the time we figured everything out, peppers. As long as I didn't eat peppers, no migraines, no arthritis. And a lot of times people with migraines are like, well, mine has nothing to do with food because I get mine with a storm. And it's like, okay, perfect. Well, that just means you're getting an inflammatory reaction that's like being triggered more by a change in pressure, but there's still an inflammatory situation here. So in those situations, you change the diet, and then all of a sudden they stop getting these reactions to weather changes. Chronic bladder issues, specifically interstitial cystitis. So people that have chronic bladder infections, but yet when they're doing all the testing and the urine testing, they're not finding bacterial infections, but yet they're finding all the like blood and irritation, but they're not be able to culture any type of bacteria. Food sensitivities has to be addressed. We'll always look back to the food sensitivities. Chronic sinus issues. This is a big one. And you can include allergies in that. So the thing is with allergies, it's not like the food sensitivity is the cause of your allergy. And I would say, though in some cases I have seen allergies go away completely by dealing with food sensitivities, most of the time what happens with the allergy aspect is that when you deal with the food sensitivities, the allergy symptoms get way less. Now, I'm not going to say necessarily vanish, but get way less. But chronic sinus issues is a huge, huge part of food sensitivities. So if someone who's always congested, even if they're not having allergies, even if it's not an allergy season, got to check food sensitivities. Brain fog, and you've ruled out hormones. They sleep fine, you've checked their thyroid, all of that's fine. Figure out things with their diet. Clear up their diet, you'll see a change with their focus and their brain fog. People with chronic fatigue. The link with food sensitivities with that is huge. Obviously, you're not going to put all your eggs in one basket and say, oh, it's just a food sensitivity, so let's not even bother checking your thyroid. But even if you do do a blood test that's more in-depth, and say you're checking B12 and iron, and if you see those are both low, probably, unless they're a vegan and they're not really taking in any iron or B12, check for food sensitivities as well, because it tells you they're not absorbing very well, and when people are not absorbing very well, it's because something's irritating their digestive tract, even if they don't have digestive symptoms. And if that's the case, you're still looking for food sensitivities. So I hope you're starting to see that there's a lot of stuff we're going through here linked with food sensitivities. Difficulty losing weight. Now, I'm not going to go as far as to say, oh, just remove some of your sensitivities and all the weight's just going to melt off. Like the weight loss program that I put together works with eliminating a lot of food sensitivities, but it's still designed to be a weight loss program. But if you could say you're doing a lot of calorie restriction, or just doing a low carb diet, but you're eating a lot of foods that are still you're very sensitive to, weight loss will be so much more difficult. And because your energy will be so much lower, it's going to be hard to find the motivation and the energy to want to eat well, to want to exercise, to want to do all of that. And number 10, I'm going to go through all these again real quick as a summary, but number 10, water retention. When you see a lot of swelling in the legs and you know it's not a heart condition or a kidney issue, and there's just this constant kind of puffiness. You see it in the legs, you see it in the hands and feet. You've ruled out heart issues, kidney issues, hormones are balanced. Food sensitivities. Go right back to that, food sensitivity. So, quick review. We'll go in reverse order. So, water retention, weight, difficulty losing weight, fatigue, brain fog, sinus and allergies, chronic bladder issues, headaches and migraines, skin issues like eczema, dry skin, dermatitis, hives. Then we've got arthritis, on almost any type of arthritis. If you're dealing with any of these, you need to get some assistance with ruling out food sensitivities. And in a future episode, we're going to discuss what are the foods, how do you figure out what the problem foods are and deal with it from that way. But there is a lot of information that you can do currently right now on ablebeta.com. You can go in and select any one of these health conditions, and then it will automatically remove all the food sensitivities related to that I've seen in practice. So this is Doc Yates signing off. Hope this was helpful. Thanks for tuning in to Simply Health. If you want to learn more about health, check out Able Health. If you want to see some of the other projects that I've been working on in health, business, music, and life, please check out the links below.